We're here with Josh Valle, who recently just got his black belt at this gym. And you're in Montana, is that right, Josh?
Correct, yes.
Okay, awesome. So when did you first start jiu-jitsu and what got you started?
I started jujitsu. So I actually am originally from Southern California, so Temecula area, SoCal. I actually started at 10th Planet Gym down there.
Okay.
I actually, in high school, I wrestled through high school and I loved it. And it was like one of those things one day, I was like, man, I kind of like miss wrestling. I want to get back into the grappling thing. I'm like,
Right.
at the time it was 2018, and I was like, I don't know that I have the gas tank to go back into a wrestling room. I think I was early 30s at that point. And I was like, I don't
Sure.
know if I can hang with those guys. So I just started looking in at found jujitsu, and I was like, okay, cool. Let me look at this 10th Planet thing. It looks like they were doing no-gi at the time, right? So walked in and started down there at 10th Planet Marietta. And I was there from like mid 2018, 2019 into 2020, and then COVID happened. Gym shut down, much is the case with everyone else pretty much across the country at that time. And so gym was shut down, but we ended up training with a couple guys that I knew from the gym, like in the garage, right? We had mat set up, as was the case with a couple other people in the community, right, at the time. That was in April 2020. I was working in Southern California at the time as well. I was like an outside sales rep, and when COVID hit, I was like, oh, there goes my job. My whole job was going out and visiting stores. And so the second that happened, the stores didn't want any reps in their stores. I was like, there goes the job. So sure enough, that happened. I just kind of hung out until December. And then my ex had moved up here to Kalispell, Montana, and with my son. And I was like, you know what? This is a perfect time. I'm going to make a move up to Kalispell. And I moved up December of 2020. And then I was like, I would like to keep doing the no-gi thing. I was really enjoying the no-gi thing. And spoiler alert, there's no gi gym in Montana where I
Right.
was living. So I was like, you know what? I'm enjoying it so much. I just want to do jujitsu, whatever. I'll find just a gym. Found SBG, signed up the week I got here and started training, and the rest is history at that point.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what was the transition for you like going from primarily no-gi to gi? Was it really challenging? Was it frustrating?
Yeah, at first it was, right? Because like I said, I have a wrestling background, so the no-gi thing was very, very intuitive for me. And I wasn't at first a fan of the gi. And then it kind of just grew on me. And even
Mhm.
still to this day, I do like the gi. I like wrestling. I don't do as much of it anymore, but I do enjoy the sport and I like how it changes. But for me, I just like the gi. It allows me to kind of slow things down, right? Which I think is a primary complaint that a lot of no-gi guys have, is it's too slow, but it's, especially for me, I like slowing it down, right? I like being able to grab collars and sleeves and stuff like that and slow it down. I mean, some of these kids are coming in too damn fast. I can't keep up,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I gotta
Yes.
slow it down a little bit, right? I'm getting up there. I'm 39 now. So yeah, I think the transition was pretty easy. I just had to learn the grips, right? How to deal with the gi grips. And other than that, it was pretty easy. Pretty much no gi does transition into gi pretty well. You just have to learn how to deal with grips, right?
I feel that's the transition for everyone. For me, it's the
Yeah.
opposite. I enjoy gi more, and then going
Yeah.
from gi to no gi has been a bit of a transition for sure. Now, tell me a little bit about how the dealt with low back pain, and when did that start, and when did that become start to become a major issue for you?
It was like a slow burn. Essentially, what ended up happening was when I was 19, I was in a fender bender and this lady rear-ended me. At the time, I had an 88 Chevy Blazer, and the
Yeah.
headrest came up to about mid neck height, just below the crown of my skull here. My head actually kind of snapped over the
Ooh.
headrest. And I remember, like I said, I was 19 at the time as a young guy. Her car was all messed up. She was like, "Oh, let's not call insurance." So I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I just pulled your radiator out with my trailer hitch, so I'm all right with that. My car still drives, whatever." I went on with my day, and then next day, man, I was so sore I can barely bend down to tie my shoes. And I got better, just kind of went on about my ways. I just didn't really pay any mind to it. And then just like over the years, I would just kind of notice some neck pain, and every now and then I'd get, if I'd turn a certain way or whatever, or look up or whatever, I'd get like a stinger right down my shoulder into my hand, and just didn't really even think much about it. And then I started jujitsu, right? I remember it was no gi. I was a dumb white belt, right? And this guy had put me in a triangle, and stubborn white belt mentality. I was like, I'm not tapping to this, right? And I ripped my head out of that triangle, hit it in tight, and I ripped my head out of the triangle. I heard it pop in my neck, and I was like, oh, that was loud. And then I went home, and I remember just like the next day, my shoulder, my deltoid was sore, my neck was super sore and tight, and then it just kind of progressed from there. At that point, that was late 2018, early 2019, something like that when that happened. And then from that point moving forward, I noticed numbness in my thumb and pointer finger and pins and needles. And it would come and go, right? And then just as I continued to do jujitsu more, I noticed the numbness more and more and just ignored it a little bit, right? So that's kind of how it all started. It was like a slow progression.
Okay. When did it come to a point where you're like, this
Where I had
is
to,
a little bit
yeah.
more
Oh,
serious?
yeah. It was, let's see here. I started SBG. I was white belt. I got my stripes pretty quick. I think after a few months, 6 or 7 months, I ended up giving me my blue belt because I had been doing jujitsu at that point for over a year and a half, right? So I got my blue belt, and was a blue belt for about a year or so. And I remember being at open mat one day, and this was in December. It's like December of 21. We were, I was just at open mat, and I remember I just was like rolling, and then my neck felt a little weird, and I sat off to the side, and this pain in my neck just started kind of radiating. It was like the middle of December, and I just remember I had to sit against the mat with my head tilted forward. If I try to put my head up, it would be really painful in my neck. And I was just like, oh man. And I'm like, that really hurts. And my coach at the time walks over. He's like, hey man, you okay? And I'm like, I don't think so. My neck hurts really bad. And he was like, do you need me to take you to the hospital? I was like, I don't know if it's that bad, but I don't think that I can drive home. I'm only 2 blocks away from my gym. So it's literally walking distance, but I couldn't even do that. I was like, I think I need, if you can give me a ride home, I think that'd be great because I don't know, I can't drive. He was like, I'll just take you over to your house. My now fiance, she was at her Christmas party, and I called her when I got home, and I was like, hey, let her know what happened. And I was like, I think I need to go to urgent care. My neck hurts really bad. And so she came home, took the urgent care or emergency room rather, because it was, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something like that on a Friday. And so we went to emergency room, and they gave me some pain meds to deal with the pain. And then they did a CT scan and x-ray. And she was like, it's kind of hard to tell. It kind of looks like you might have a disc herniation or bulge in your C5, C6 region there, but we have to schedule an MRI to get a better look. And I was like, okay, cool. So at that point, obviously I stopped training, and then they referred me to physical therapists because after the pain meds, it kind of started to get better, right? I was able to walk and stuff. The pain kind of subsided. So I started going to a physical therapist, really good sports physical therapist here in the Valley, and working with him. And it started getting better. And we were doing, I was going at least once a week, maybe twice at the beginning, and did that. I wasn't training. Once that happened, I stopped training. And funny enough, at that point, my coaches had already decided they were going to give me my purple belt, and I was like, ah, cool. That kind of sucks, right? Like I'm a purple belt now, but not injured. And I don't know if you're familiar with SBG's promotion like ceremony that we do or not, but essentially we do what's called an Ironman. So you show up, and the people get in their belts. They roll to submission with every person that showed up. So it's kind of a fun promotion ceremony. You get to celebrate getting your new belt with your teammates and that sort of thing. So they had given me my purple belt already, but I wasn't able to participate in my Ironman. So I kind of sat on the sidelines, like, fine, whatever. I was feeling good, but I was like, I haven't gotten an MRI yet, so I'm just waiting. I ended up getting my MRI in, it's like February, like late February, and still going to the physical therapist and whatnot and feeling pretty good, right? And my MRI results came back, and I was looking at it with my physical therapist, and he was like, I had a scheduled appointment to see a neurologist and go over the results, right? But we were looking at it before the appointment, and he was like, that looks pretty bad. And I was like, shit. So
Yeah.
he was like, I don't normally, I try to avoid recommending surgery for people. And he's like, but unfortunately, in this situation, go see your neurologist first. But it looks like you might not be able to avoid surgery. And I was like, damn.
Wow. So
Yeah.
at this point, what's going through your mind? You just got your purple belt.
Yeah.
Are you thinking, hey, does this mean that I need to stop? What sorts of things are like going through your mind, like mentally? It had to have been tough.
Yeah. I definitely like it was a lot of, I was having a lot of conversations with my fiance, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe I need to hang it up. Right. Like at this point, it's like, is it worth the time, the effort, the pain? Right. And for me, it was one of those things like I had always wanted a black belt in martial arts. I always wanted black belt. And then I find jujitsu and I'm like, I fall in love with the sport, dude. I'm like
Yes.
going 4 or 5 days a week, right? Training like a madman, and I just fell in love with it. Like with the sport, the game, just like the acquisition of knowledge, right? I was always like,
Yes.
when I wasn't at the gym, I was watching YouTube videos, taking notes, right? Like I
Yep.
was in it. I was in it. And I was like, man,
Yep.
I love this sport, dude. And especially training at SBG, the culture was so freaking awesome. Like my training partners, right? Like fell in love with it. And so I was like, man, I don't know. Like I didn't want to, right? But deep down inside of me, it was probably like, hey, we probably should, right? And it was one of those things like, even though I just got my purple, I hadn't even rolled as a purple belt yet, but I had it in hand. And I'm like, man, I'm halfway there, dude. Let's just, because my physical therapist, he was like, I think it's one of those things. Let's see what your surgeon says. Let's go and see a surgeon and see what happens. Let's see what he says, right? He's like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that you could do it. And maybe you just got to tone it back a little bit, right? I had a really excellent physical therapist. His name was Zach. Awesome dude. And so he kind of gave me a little bit of hope, right? Hey, don't just hang it up just yet, right? Let's go through the process. Let's talk with the surgeon. Let's see what he thinks. So I was like, all right, cool. And here's where the dumb decision came in. But I was like, you know what? I have the MRI, I have the appointment with the doctor. My neck can't get much worse, right? Spoiler alert. And I was like, you know what? I'll just go back to the gym. I'll start training again. I'll go easy, right? I'm not going to do
Right.
anything crazy. So late March, I start going back to the gym. It's like second to last week of March. Go back to the gym. First week, great, whatever. Just kind of slowly got into it, right? At the time, I was helping with the coach the foundations class, the intro class. Week two comes around. I was like feeling pretty good, right? I was continuing going to the physical therapist. My neck was feeling good. I was like, yeah, I feel great. And then the 30th rolled around. I was in class and went to open mat and was rolling with this white belt. And I was doing like a double overpass, right? Or double underpass. And he had my collar through his legs, right? But I was already passed. And I'm like, and I had his collar like trying to solidify the pass, but he was still holding on to my collar through his legs, right? And I'm like, I'm past your guard. So just like, I'm thinking to myself, like, just, oh, dude, whatever. Went home that night, showered, had dinner, whatever. And 11 o'clock rolls around on a Friday night. I had my son for the weekend with me, right? And sitting in bed, and my neck just starts just pounding, hurt my shoulder.
Oh,
Felt like someone had stabbed a bunch of needles in my shoulder, broke them off, and left them in there, right? And I was like, oh man, I was like curled over in pain on the floor. And my fiance looks at me. She's like, are you okay? And I was like, I don't know. My neck hurts real bad. And she was like, do we need to go to the emergency room? And I was like, yeah, I think we do. And so went to the emergency room, and they had already done, I had my MRI and all that stuff already in my CT scan. And so we went to the emergency room. And I fortunately, my doctor that I had that night, her husband, I trained with at the gym. Anyways, right? But so she's very familiar with the jiu-jitsu scene, all that stuff, right? I trained with her husband. So, we kind of gave her an insight of what was going on. And she pulled my MRI and CT, and she was like, well, there's not really much that we can do. We can give you some pain meds. I'll send you home with some pain meds, and first thing Monday morning, or if you go home tonight and it gets better, or if it gets worse tomorrow, come back. And I was like, okay, cool. Go home with pain meds, get all settled in. That Saturday, it hit again, real bad. Again, super bad neck pain, shoulder pain. I'm like, oh, geez, midnight rolls around. I got to go back to the emergency room. So fiance takes me back to the emergency room. They gave me, so the first night they gave me intramuscular Dilaudid. And then the second night she was like, yeah, I kind of was figuring that might happen. So best we can do for you right now is we got to get you, we'll give you some pain meds and you got to call your surgeon first thing Monday morning. Send me home. Monday morning rolls around, call them up. They're like, we can see you tomorrow morning. So Tuesday morning. Go in Tuesday morning and doctor comes in, pulls up my MRI, takes one look at it, and he goes, "Have you ever been in a car accident?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah, looks that way." He's like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to do surgery." I was like, "Shit, okay." I was already looking into it. I was kind of curious about disc replacement. So I asked him, he was like, "Unfortunately, just looking at this, disc replacement is not an option." I was missing 75% of my disc in my C5, C6, and C6, C7.
Wow. Like, do you
Right.
have a lot of weakness in the
Um,
hands?
It's surprisingly not too much. It was
Okay.
just a lot of shoulder pain, and then I had numbness in middle index and thumb. I still, to this day, 3 years later, I still kind of have a little bit of very, very minor numbness in my thumb. He looks at me and he's like, the earliest I can get you going is the 13th at the time. At this point, it was the 3rd or the 4th. So I was 10 days out before I get a surgery and I was in crazy pain. I was like, yeah, let's do it. Right. I didn't really, we're in a small town. I really couldn't afford to go get a second opinion. I had already called out of work and I was bedridden. I could barely walk to the bathroom. I couldn't stand up for any extended period of time to make myself food. And yeah, so I was just kind of at the mercy. I was like, let's do it. Right. So yeah, I waited in bed for 10 days before surgery. Then surgery day comes around and I was just like, I was so ready. I was in pain the whole time. And he gave me pen meds, but didn't really help. It made me sleepy and I was able to get a little bit of sleep, but in terms
Yeah.
of the pain, it just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And then went into surgery and woke up and pain was gone. And I was like, it was like this giant weight lifted off my shoulder. I was like, oh, thank God. Because I had heard stories that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so I was a little nervous about that. But I woke up, man, just pain free. My neck felt great. I was like, obviously still under anesthesia, but like
Sure.
it was very instantaneously noticeable.
So did they
Yeah.
do a fusion?
Yeah. They did
Okay.
2-level spinal fusions, C5, C6, C6, C7. I got a bracket in there, all that good stuff. A little bit of hardware.
Yeah.
I sent
Yeah.
you some pictures. It's called an ACDF, anterior cervical discectomy infusion. So they
Yes.
went in through the front, move your stuff aside there.
Okay.
So that's kind of pre and post surgery a little bit there.
So tell me this, where's your head at this point? You initially heard it, got a preliminary diagnosis, and said, "Hey, I feel pretty good. I'm going to go back to
Yeah.
training." And then this happens, and
Yeah.
now surgery. Like, where's your thought or mind at with jujitsu at this point?
Honestly, I felt so good. My neck felt so good. I was just tired, right? And I knew my doctor was like 6 month recovery time till you're 100%. And I was like, okay, cool. I told him about jujitsu and I was like, do you think this is in the realm of possibility of me doing jujitsu again? And he was like, he was a funny guy too. He told me in the consultation before the surgery, he looked at my surgery. He's like, you have a petite neck. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. You could have just told me I had a girl's neck. No, your neck is smaller than a girl's neck. I was like, ah, sick, dude. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, ah, that's hilarious. Just burn me while I'm in pain. That's cool.
Yeah,
Whatever, dude. No, he was a cool dude though. But he was like, I asked him about this. He looked at me. He's like, "What? You don't trust my contracting?" I was like, "All right, sounds good to me." He was like,
yeah,
"Obviously, I want you to take it easy, but once you hit the 6 month mark, I think you'll be fine. Just gotta look out for yourself." And
yeah.
so that really kind of gave me a lot of that was after that was my 2 week, what was it, my 2 week post surgery checkup is when he told me that. I was like, and that kind of I was like, oh, cool. That gave me some confidence, right? I was like, okay, maybe this is something that I can keep doing moving forward and whatnot.
Right.
And kind of one of the things for me is I was anxious. I wanted to get back. So one of the things that I started doing really early on post surgery, I would just go to class and sit on the side and I'd just watch, right? Take notes, talk to my coach after class and just do the thing, be there, be present,
Sure.
right? I had to get cleared to go back to work too because he wanted me out for 3 months out of work. At the time, I was assistant branch manager for a rental car company. So I just kind of was at the desk. I didn't really do any labor, right? I managed people. So he cleared me to work pretty early. And then the 3 month mark hit. And I was like, maybe I can go back to the gym and just kind of help out, maybe to help out in the foundations class, right? And just be like a coaching assistant, kind of help out there. Maybe it'd be a way for me to kind of keep my brain fresh and kind of help people. Maybe teaching people or showing people will help them, help my brain kind of keep things fresh, right? I actually started going back at the 3 month mark. I just started was helping, right? Being an uki and whatnot. And then, so that's kind of how I started slowly getting back into it, right? And then 6 month mark hit, and I kind of had an interesting life event where I was working at the rental car company and I got a promotion and I had to move to Helena, which is about 4 hours east of Kalispell here. And so I ended up moving up temporarily to Helena. So I couldn't train in Kalispell. So I went and found a gym out there and started training out there. And I was still kind of concerned about the neck. I was feeling really good, right? Still kind of concerned about the neck though. And so it was just a point that I made to every single one of my training partners, like, hey man, I had neck surgery 6 months ago. Do me a huge favor. If you grab my neck, just give me a few seconds, let me tap, right? Don't just send it, right? And it was great. I literally told that to everyone, right? Just, hey, please don't grab my neck. Ironically enough, I got really good at not letting people grab my neck. Uh, but yeah, and I just kind of kept training through it, and I was only in Helena for 4 months, and then I ended up moving to Missoula for another promotion for work. And fortunately, there's an SBG down in Missoula as well. I
Okay.
started training down there with those guys. And then I was down there for 6 months and then moved back up to Kalispell, which is great. And I started training back at my old gym. And it was kind of cool. I was still purple belt. So I was out of Kalispell for about a year almost, and then came back. And Coach Travis approached me and asked me if I wanted to start coaching the foundations class. And I was like, oh, yeah, sounds good. Sign me up, right? Like,
Yeah.
and because one of the coaches I was training was just over there, he was doing a ton of different classes, a bunch of kids classes, teens classes. And so he just needed some time to get away from that. So yeah, so took that over and it's been doing that ever since.
That's awesome. Now, how has your game changed since the injury, since the surgery? Has that been a consideration for you? Were there certain
Yeah.
things you did previously that you just do not do now and just
Yeah.
changed your
Yeah.
game?
I used to invert a lot, right?
Oh,
Yeah. That stopped real fast after surgery.
yeah.
It's now being 3 years post, now I do it from time to time. I've learned when and how to do it. So I've gotten better at it. I used to invert on my neck, right? And now
Yeah.
I've learned to invert on my shoulders. I worked on hip flexibility. So my hips, my legs get closer to my upper torso, and I can invert on my shoulders instead of on my neck. Every now and
Okay.
then I go on my neck, but at this point in time, it's good. I avoid it as much as possible, but it's not the
Yeah.
end of the world if I go on the neck a little bit. In terms of other things, there's just a weight class that I just won't go with below a certain belt, right?
Yeah.
If you're a white belt and you've got 60 pounds on me, I'm probably not rolling with you, right?
Yeah.
Once they hit the blue belt range and I get to know them a little bit, yeah, I'll start rolling with them, right?
Yeah.
And I've developed this game, especially with lower belts, the white belts. I don't let them get out from bottom if I can avoid it, right? I just don't like being on the bottom with the white belt down there. You just don't know what they're going to do, right? And fortunately, like the culture at the gym that we have here is great, right? Everyone knows at this point, everyone in the gym knows my story. Travis has really fostered a really good gym culture and safe training. We have very few catastrophic injuries at the gym. So yeah, it's good, man, in that realm. I will roll with heavier people. It's just higher belt ranks, people that I know are controlled.
So important. What would you say to someone who's just sustained a minor, even a major injury in terms of what to think mentally if they want to continue to train and also how to get through it, really?
Yeah, it's tough, right? And I tell this to everyone. If I see someone, they'll come into the gym and I'll see them sitting on the side. I'm like, oh, hey man, what's going on? You got an injury going on? They're like, yeah, like I don't know, I like tweak my knee or my ankle or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, hey, take care of that. Have you seen a doctor yet? I always ask people that. I'm like, hey, have you seen doctors? Do you think it's at that point? And they're like, no, I don't think so. It's just like sore. It's like, okay, take it easy. right? So I always encourage people to kind of take it easy, right? When people ask me though, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, if I got an injury and it's something just doesn't feel right, I'm probably going to take a week off and see how it. Also go to class, but I'm not going to roll, right?
Yeah.
And then a week goes by, see how it feels. If it feels good, then I'll go back and light roll, right? And
Yeah.
I think you have to temper your expectations, and you have to be very thoughtful and mindful about how you go back to training. Because if you have an injury, you take a week off, and then you go full blast back into open mat and training and sparring and stuff like that, you're going to just put yourself right back in the situation, right? So
Yeah.
I always tell people, hey, err on the side of caution. Just take it easy. Like, there's no rush, man. There's no rush.
Yeah.
Until you
Yeah.
feel 100%, maybe just do class. Don't roll.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you need to roll, just do positional sparring where you don't put that piece of your body in a position where it's going to potentially injure yourself, right?
Makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
I know you're short on time and you're going to run, but really quickly in closing, what would you tell your white belt self now that you've earned your black belt?
Oh,
Looking back.
man, it sounds so cliche, right? You hear it all the time. Yeah, tap early, tap often. You got to put the ego in check. And it's
Yes.
hard. I was there, right? I remember that self where I was just like, nah, I'm not tapping to this. We're training, man. I'm not at ADCC trying to freaking win gold medal. Like, if you don't know how to escape this thing, just tap, reset. It's the easiest thing. I'd rather do that and then learn how to actually escape than just try to rip my head out of something, right? I understand it. I understand the mentality. I had it. I still kind of sometimes do. I really put my ego in check and be like, yeah, you know what? I have nothing to prove.
And then lastly, what does jiu-jitsu mean to you?
Can you ask that one more time?
What does jiu-jitsu mean to you?
I mean, the way I look at it is it's taught me humility and discipline, right? And for me at this point, like, it's a lifelong thing for me. And everything I do now, the way I train is in a way that allows me to continue to train. Yeah. It's kind of what it means to me.
I know you got
It's
to
a way
run,
of life
so
at this point.
thanks so much for your time, Josh. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it. If anyone wants to get a hold of you and maybe ask you questions about your neck surgery, if
Sure.
people come across this video, would it be okay if they reached out?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, cool. We'll talk about the details of that. We'll
Sure.
put it in the description and stuff like that.
100%.
We'll be in touch, Josh. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk soon, brother.
All right. Take it easy.
You too.